congregation, please arise.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, and thank you for your patience while we get everyone seated. Quite the crowd that we have here today for Scott. Appreciate you all being here. My name is Adam Walker. I've been asked by the family to help conduct the services here today. We'll go ahead and follow the program as outlined. We will first have an opening musical selection, Far Away, a recording by Nickelback, Invocation by Harley Frantz, his sister-in-law, after which we'll have a life sketch that will be given by Natalie Case, a sister. We'll have a speaker by Joseph Mayer, an uncle, and then we'll have a musical selection, Wish You Were Here, that Jocelyn and Brittany's musical tribute for Scott, produced by Jason Fulmer, brother-in-law, and we'll go to that point.
Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, today we celebrate the life of Scott Frantz. He was a father, a husband, a brother, and a friend. Heavenly Father, we please ask for Thy Spirit to help us and guide us and heal us. We please ask during this time that we will be able to feel Scott's spirit and love all around us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.
Okay, you guys can listen to me for like 30 minutes, just so you guys know. But he had a big, long life already, even with how young he was. To know Scott is to be aware of the importance of floss sticks, gas station drinks, and twice-a-day showers, and of course, the great love he had for family and friends. Today, we have an opportunity to celebrate his life amidst our sorrow at his passing. Perhaps we'll all know him better by the end of this life sketch. Scott was welcomed into the world by his mother Lois and the whole Meyer family on January 25th, 1982, in Payson, Utah. In a letter written to Scott for a birthday, Grandma Myers says, "What a blessing it has been to have you in our lives, and it all started the day you were born. I was with your mom to see you come into this world, just the two of us." Scott was taken home to Spanish Fork, where he grew up, living with his grandparents and in various other homes. Marcia, a friend and neighbor, remembers how cute his mom always dressed him and says she never saw him with a messy, dirty face. Perhaps being clean just came natural to him. Marcia also remembers being amused at watching Lois chase after her little guy, yelling, "Scott, get back here right now," and then watching as she scooped him up, kissed his little face, the both of them laughing out loud. Another memory Marcia shared was watching Scott follow his grandpa around the yard. As Grandpa mowed the lawn with Scott pushing a little plastic lawnmower behind him. It was indeed a wonderful experience watching Scotty grow. Grandma Meyer recalls how Scott loved to race up and down the sidewalk on 1500 East with Jared Warner, and figures they wore out 2 or 3 big wheels in the process. When Scott was off to school, Grandma helped him with his reading and homework. Uncle Darren remembers hearing the news about Lois being pregnant and teasing his sister about the impending birth, but soon repented after Grandma gave him a stern talking to. A few years later, he picked Scott up every day after school to take care of him for a few hours until Lois came home from work. Scott was a Cub Scout, enjoyed bowling, and loved to play basketball, going in early every day before school to shoot some hoops. But now, instead of following Grandpa around with the mower, Scott was mowing the lawn for $5 and a Pepsi. Grandma says that's probably somewhat her fault for all the Pepsi Scott drank. When Scott was 8, his mother married Michael Frantz, who adopted him and his sister Natalie. The family grew in addition to Travis, Christopher, and Heather. Scott was baptized as a member of the LDS Church and was happy when he was sealed to his mom. In a letter to Scott, Mike recalls the circumstances of his adoption, noting that Scott brought up the fact he had a different last name than his mom. After a long discussion with Lois and later with Scott, they began the process of adoption. They worked through all the red tape until finally they stood in front of a judge and got Scott's last name changed to Frantz. Even so, he will always be a Meyer too. Scott, being the oldest, took on some responsibility for his younger siblings. Heather recalls that when we were little, Mom worked a lot, and Scott was always there to take care of all of us. She remembers him making a homemade mac and cheese meal and said, I still don't know what he put in it, but it was one of my favorite things growing up. I think it was all of our favorite things because Mom used to get so mad when because he'd use all the cheese. Scott had a special bond with Grandma and Grandpa Meyer. His favorite smell was Grandpa's shed because it reminded him of Grandpa teaching him various skills through the years. And stepping into the shed brought it all back. He spent a lot of time with Grandma, and when he came in, he greeted her with, Hi, Mom. Speaking of special bonds, Cole Stagel is Scott's brother from another mother, and no one who knows the two of them would doubt that. From being kids together, running the neighborhood, to being teens getting into trouble, to finding themselves grown up, married with children, Cole and Scott have been together through it all. In a fun twist to their friendship, each encouraged the other to ask the women they were crushing on to get a phone number, as in Kaylee, and to ask her out, as in Brittany. But then we're getting ahead of the story. So one of the things Cole remembers is how Scott wanted to put a bumping system in the old Toyota Corolla he got from Grandma. Cole told him it was crazy putting that much into the old girl. However, Scott loved that car, and Cole believes it has to do with being Mom's car. Later on, Cole helped him find and add accessories to his truck. Scott had a knack for coming up with nicknames, and to him I was new. I, in turn, was only two people who could get away with calling him Scotty Potty. He hated that nickname so bad. He may not have liked the nickname, and he was so mad when I was born. But when I hit my teenage years, he was my very best friend and biggest protector. All I had to do was call, and he was there wherever, for whatever reason. Even at Shopko parking lot to back me up in fights. There he was, getting out of the car with a baseball bat and a car full of buddies. One thing, he walked in front of my mom, and she seen it and met him down there too. We were both in trouble. One thing about Scott was that he could make friends easily, from a girl cutting his hair, Kaylee, to the people at the gas station where he got his daily sodas. Scott made friends, a trait Brayden has definitely inherited. Apparently, he has this trait since he was a little boy. Uncle Joe commented that Scott was outgoing and made friends easily. He visited Joe in Portland and right away made friends with all the kids in the area. He spent a good part of that visit skateboarding and hanging out with his new friends. His best friend in the world, though, was his brother, Chris. The two of them loved the same things and spent a lot of time together, even as they grew older and had more responsibility and people in their lives. Shared hobbies were the name of the game, whether it was testing the limits of RC cars and planes, going to midnight races, can you say fast cars? And of course, playing video games together. Incidentally, one of the video games Scott really liked featured horses and wagons, and Brittany called it the horse's ass game. Because when she walked through the door and saw it, it always was showing the back of the horse, and it stuck. Chris and Scott often worked on projects together. Chris says working with him on any project that should have taken normal people an hour or two would take us double. We would mess around or everything would go wrong with the project. We always had the best time figuring it out together. It just took us twice as long. They also loved to go golfing as well and spent some great times on the greens. Along with Travis, a favorite activity was going to the property to ride the four-wheelers and do target shooting. Chris says, I loved all our outdoor adventures together, discovering new places we haven't been on our motorcycles. That's when we both felt the most free. Scott graduated from Landmark High School in Spanish Fork and went on to pursue computer certification classes. Scott was a hard worker. It was his trademark. And whatever job he was doing, you knew it would be done well. His work experience included technology, manufacturing, working on the line at Little Giant Ladder, and most recently, he was an inventory analyst specialist at Liberty Safe. Boating was one of Scott's passions, whether with family or friends. One time when he was with Cole, they took the boat to Utah Lake Boat Harbor. As they were backing the boat, they got it off the trailer into the water. Then they shut it off at the dock and noticed it was sinking a bit. And in their hurry to go tubing and wakeboarding, they forgot to tighten the drain plugs. Oops, live and learn. Darren shared a boat story too. I remember the time we were out boating and made the mistake of telling him he could not throw me off the tube. He tried a few simple things that did not work, so in order to throw me off, he got the boat going as fast as he could and turned very sharp. This had a slingshot effect, and man, did I pick up speed until the edge of the tube caught a little wave on the water. The tube went under the water and stopped. I did not. I was doing cartwheels in the air, which was fun at first. Then it hit the water, which is when the fun ended. I broke a couple ribs, me and my big mouth. One more boat story. This time was from Weston, his nephew. I used to always hang out with Scott and Braden. My most memorable memory was when he took me out on the boat. He made me ride the tube, and I was scared at first, but he talked me into doing it, and it was a blast until I fell off. Scott was right there to make sure I was okay, though. He always made sure everyone was okay. I love you, Uncle Scott. In April 2007, Scott married Amanda Napier, and in 2010, his beloved son, Braden Scott Frantz, was born. Scott and Amanda were later divorced, but Scott took to being a father right away. Braden was the light in his eye and the reason he made changes for the better in his life. With the advent of being a single parent came the single life, and it wasn't long before his friends were trying to set him up and vice versa. Kaylee was Scott's stylist, and in case you didn't know, Scott was always very particular about his hair and grooming. When she had been cutting Scott's hair for about a year, she remembers him bringing Cole in with him to get a haircut. She was with another client, but he made it known that he was there, going to the reception desk, smacking his hand down and saying, "Where's my girl?" He introduced her to Cole, and the rest is history. Scott could be perceived as quiet, but once you got to know him, his personality filled the room, and he sometimes was full of it. Chris shares a story of when he and Scott went to Wyoming to stock up on fireworks. He was obsessed with fireworks. He explains what happened like this. Scott bought tons of fireworks. Being the pyros that we are, when we got outside to the parking lot, we had to start lighting some off. Scott ended up lighting an aerial firework that shot straight to the side of the freeway and started a fire. In pure panic, Scott ran towards the side of the freeway, towards the fire, and he was running up and down on the side of the freeway. He ended up falling straight onto the fire, but putting it out. He wasn't burned, but it was really funny how he was able to put the fire out by falling on it. It was during this point in his life that he lost his mother after her short battle with ALS on June 29th, 2009. His mom was his world, and he was devastated by her passing. Cole remembered when he got the call from Scott when his mom was diagnosed, and they went on a very long ride up the canyon, almost to Price before they even had a clue where they were at. Going for a drive was one way Scott dealt with bad news. Turning back to drive home, perhaps symbolic of turning to step up and make a better life for him and his son. While getting back on his feet, he took a job at Little Giant Ladders, where he met the love of his life, Brittany Fulmer. Brittany recounts the first thing she noticed about Scott was his charisma and charm, and then his eyes, those piercing blue eyes. And of course, he was flirtatious and a little relentless. Brittany wasn't sure. Thanks. Brittany wasn't sure she even wanted to date, but when she was won over was when they were walking out from work for a lunch break, and he turned around, started walking backwards and saying, "If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come on, baby." And she had to warn him that there was a forklift behind him, which he nearly tripped over, but didn't. And that was the beginning. While getting back, what adventure Brittany and Scott had was the first time ever riding a four-wheeler. They went with Chris and Harley up to the property to ride when they decided to go a new way. It was early spring and they were on a dirt road and started to go through a place where it was still snow. The next thing they knew, the four-wheelers were sinking and they were truly stuck. Hours later, after a lot of thinking, ingenuity, and hard work, they got out and made it down the hill as dusk was setting in. Brittany remembers being frozen, but flopping down on the snow in exhaustion. Scott joined her, and she remembers him leaning over to give her a kiss. After several years of being together, Scott proposed at a Thanksgiving dinner with the Fuller family, and she accepted. Scott and Brittany were married in a beautiful outdoor ceremony on June 18th, 2016 in Payson, Utah, complete with a young Braden announcing to the assembled guests that they were waiting because Mom had to pee. Despite the delay, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful day as they made their vows. During their Cancun honeymoon, Scott discovered that he did like green beans. They just needed to be cooked correctly. And both he and Brittany were amazed at the birds flying through the lobby. Another thing they noticed was the plethora of women wearing rompers. And Scott invented a game on the spot in style of slug bug, but with rompers. For the rest of their honeymoon, whenever they saw someone wearing a romper, they would do the slug bug shoulder punch and say romper bomper. After counting hundreds, they lost track. Coming home, they settled into married life and building their relationship. Brittany says that one of Scott's good qualities exhibited through the majority of their marriage was the trust they shared, and they didn't lie to each other. One thing about Scott was that he would call it like he saw it. It would just tell her the truth even if she didn't want to hear it. She also admired his ability to keep trying even when everything wasn't perfect. But if something really bothered her and she asked him to work on it, he would put all effort into changing his behavior or habit and doing better. He always told her, anytime something good happens to me, you're the first person that I want to tell. And if I can't tell you, I probably shouldn't be doing it. Scott and Brittany made their first home together as a married couple in Spanish Fork with Braden and Brittany's children, Dylan and Jocelyn. 2 years later, they made the family official, with Brittany adopting Braden on January 8th, 2018. Scott was always there for all the kids, whether it was for a school event, a sport event, or any milestone in their life. He also loved his puppies and referred to himself as Papa when talking to Lucky, Stella, and Gracie. Taking on raising a blended family isn't easy, and of course there were plenty ups and downs. As they all navigated new terrain, this dynamic was further complicated because Brittany and Scott ensured that in addition to Dylan and Jocelyn and Braden getting to know each other and doing family activities together, that Braden was able to spend time with his younger step-siblings and their families. Many nights would find the Frantz home filled with kids various ages, stages, and relations for a sleepover with Scott in the thick of it. From having Nerf gun battles and doing flips on the trampoline to watching the latest Disney movie, Scott liked to hang out with his kids. His niece Oakland said, "I loved my Uncle Scotty so much, and he was pretty much my best friend." I loved when he would watch me because we would play babies, have tea parties, go to the park, and even get ice cream when Mom said no. He showed me how to use one of those floss stick things that he was always having in his mouth, too. Each of Scott and Brittany's kids said their favorite memory of Scott was going to the property, which seems to be the theme in his life. Going to the property meant time together, target and skeet shooting, riding four-wheelers, and just hanging out together. Scott was right there when the property burned, working with everyone trying to save things. Jocelyn mentioned that she remembers going to Topgolf with Scott and doing projects with him. One of Dylan's favorite memories is when he was staying with Melanie and Jeremy and they went to a trip to Disney World. Boy, was he surprised when Brittany and Scott showed up on the last day there with Jocelyn and Brayden, and he ended up having a double vacation. On another trip to Oklahoma, Melanie recounts this about Scott. I particularly love how you and Liam were kindred spirits, two peas in a pod. Even though we didn't get to be together often, you were always so generous with your time and attention for him, making sure he felt special for his birthday that falls so close to Thanksgiving and the holiday season. He loved playing in the Illinois River when you and Britt came to visit. Not that any of us expected to get in the river when we stopped, but you just switched your shorts and jumped in. I guess we picked right when we named him Liam Scott before you were even officially family. A family tradition that everyone loved was going to see the fireworks. Gathering up blankets, chairs, kids, off they'd go. Getting there early, getting a parking space in the vantage point to see the show. Some of Brayden's favorite times with his dad were going golfing together, having Nerf battles, playing video games, and of course going to the gas station for a 44-ounce soda with crushed ice. It had to be crushed ice. Scott often grabbed Reese's or Reese's sticks and a treat for the puppies, plus a cup or 5 of the ice, of course. In 2017, Scott and Brittany purchased a home in Santa Quin, Utah. Scott was a good host and loved having family dinners and barbecues, making sure everyone had a cold bottle of water and plenty to eat, telling everyone what a good cook Brittany was. His specialty was grilling, and he could cook a steak to perfection. Scott was so excited to be a homeowner and took great pride in keeping the house clean and his yard in order. He loved to talk to Brittany about plans for the future improvements. In fact, he was in the middle of finishing a storage room in the basement before he got too sick to finish it. One of the yard projects was to add gravel in the driveway and to get the yard ready for a professional to install sprinklers. His brother Travis helped him, bringing over a mini excavator and gravel. Together they worked until the yard was level and flat and ready for the sprinkler system and sod. They spent a lot of hours out there laughing and working. Working hard is something Travis and Scott have in common. In addition to his regular job, Scott was always had side projects he was working on, from woodworking with Chris and making a bread and potato box for Brittany, which he did at our house, and I could have killed him because he was there until like 3 in the morning and my kids were sleeping. And a custom book nook for Sue's Airbnb, to refinishing furniture, including Brittany's piano, a true labor of love. Scott learned how to fix washers and dryers from his coworker and friend Warren, who taught him all the tricks of the trade and did a side hustle for fixing and selling them for extra money. He also used this new skill to help out family and friends too. More than once, fixing, delivering, and giving a washer or dryer to a family member or friend. He was teaching Brayden how to fix them too. Brittany and Brayden became his assistants in this project. The importance of being a hard worker was drilled into him from the time he was a young man. He always credited his grandpa Meyer with teaching him how to work and work hard. His coworker Bambi captured the essence of Scott as a worker, saying, "I remember the day I first met Scotty. I did not like this little snot stain at all." He was just everywhere, doing whatever, not following any rules. Then I got to know him. Boy, did he turn out to be one hell of a worker. Everything he went in for, he got and excelled at. He was still a snot stain, though. I ended up loving this kid to pieces. Scott did work hard to better himself. He spent a lot of time studying, which was very stressful for him, to earn certifications that would help him advance in his career. Much of Scott's identity was tied into his reputation as a good worker, and when he got sick and couldn't work, that was very hard for him. Even with those limitations, he kept himself busy. In fact, he had a rocket kit and a wooden car kit complete with gears ready to do while he was waiting impatiently to be able to go back to work. Scott courageously fought many physical and mental health challenges over the span of 20 years, yet despite it all, he hoped for a brighter future. He believed in helping others, hardworking, and showing up for his family. There are some ways that he did that. Heather said, "When I was around 25, I was living in my car, and Scott called me when he found out and told me that's unacceptable and said I'm coming to live with him in Brittany. And he let me stay there with them for a long time until I was back on my feet. He helped me get a car when I was at the low point in my life. There are so many things I love about you, but I think the thing I love the most is how inspiring you are. I have watched you as I've grown up, and you have overcome so many obstacles in your life. I hope one day I can inspire someone the way you inspire me." Brother Chris said, "Scott was my best friend. Besides being my brother, we always had each other's backs, no matter what. One of mine was that Scott was at my house within 10 minutes when I found out I had cancer. He checked on me almost every day throughout my whole entire treatment. No matter what, he was always there and taking Kristen like a brother, even though through our hard times, you still acted like he was your brother. I have so many memories, but a couple years ago, we went on a brother-sister date when I was having a hard time in life, and it was the best day ever. I'm so glad that I had that day before he was gone." Our cousin Andrew said, "Whenever Scott and I spent any time together, it was always full of smiles and laughter. He was such an amazing guy and did whatever he could to help pretty much anyone." Cole said one of the great things about Scott was his ability to listen. He always wanted to help. He truly would drop everything and help someone in need. And Bambi said, "Scott became my best friend. He was another son to me. He never hesitated to come help me, and boy, he always came to my rescue. We would have lunches and tell stories and laugh. He loved joking around. I loved his laugh. Sometimes it was evil, sinister, then just goofy. I will miss him more than words could say." Grandma Myers was my most favorite memory. The day Kayla was blessed. "Oh, how proud of you I was when you got up in church to bear your testimony. All I remember is you saying that I was the light at the end of the tunnel for you. Wow." And then you had Brayden, another joy in our lives. Scott truly gave up to others in multiple conversations with Sue. He expressed his belief in Jesus Christ and in his gospel. He believed in the atoning power of Jesus, and though he didn't always attend church, he always considered himself a Mormon. And he showed his love like Christ did through serving others. When asked what she wants Brayden to know about Scott, this was Brittany's reply. "First of all, he really did love you. No question about that. No hesitation or doubt in my mind that he loved him with all his heart. Scott didn't always have the answer, but he wanted to do right by Brayden, and he wanted to help him as much as he could, even though he didn't always know what to do at times. He wanted to teach him about being honest and being a good person and doing quality work. That was important to him. He tried to instill that into Brayden by having him help work on washers and dryers to pay off his debts. He was teaching him the value of money and hard work." She also says I think it would also now say, he would also now say to Brayden, you know, everything has not to be about, no, sorry. You know, not everything has to be about hard work. It's okay to laugh and it's okay to play and it's okay to feel your feelings. I think near the end, Scott finally came to the conclusion that it's okay to have feelings and it's okay to feel them, and that he would want Brayden to know that and to not bottle up his feelings, but to express them and do it kindly and let truth be known. Also, two other things, Brayden, and I agree with this. You can't date till you're 16, and you can't pierce your ears, or I'm going to be on. Scott, our brother, nephew, uncle, son, grandson, father, husband, and friend, we're glad you're no longer in pain. We will miss you more than words can say, but we know that you've passed from this life and walked into your mother's waiting arms. Rest in peace.
Say, I love you, Scott.
Sorry, he really wanted to come up and say, go ahead, Caleb.
Thanks, Natalie. Trey. I'm Joe. I am Scott's uncle. Scott passed away of Crohn's disease. You might hear otherwise, but the truth is it's Crohn's disease that took his life. And I invite you to join me in my anger at this insidious affliction that tormented Scott for the last 20 plus years of his life. Battling a condition like Crohn's disease is a difficult, relentless endeavor and requires heroic strength, and Scott is my hero. His mother, who battled ALS, is a hero to me. I could not have endured the pain and frustration and challenges that either of them faced. I want to honor him today, recognize the things he accomplished in spite of those challenges. I am deeply honored to have been asked to speak to you today. I'm not a great public speaker, nor do I relish the prospect of being up here, but I'm here. I will do my best. I ask for your tolerance of my nerves, my inappropriate humor, and occasional butchering of the English language. I didn't live in Spanish Fork when Scott was born, but within a few weeks, I made a visit to meet my first nephew. As Lois was showing me the new baby and teaching me the proper way to hold him, she mentioned that she had to take him to the doctor later that day. And I asked why, and she said he was going to be circumcised. I said, why didn't they do that at the hospital before he came home? And she said innocently, they were going to, but they wanted him to put on a few pounds first. He was too teeny weeny. And then she turned the color of a fire engine. Scott had a loving mother and an equally loving grandmother. He would tell you he had two mothers. Lois was mama and grandmother was mom. He was also very close to his Uncle Darren. When both mothers were working, Darren would pick Scott up after school and bring him home and babysit until someone came home from work. They would watch TV, play games like catch or hide and seek. In one rambunctious game of hide and seek, while strenuously running away from a 3-year-old who was looking for him, Darren misjudged the doorway, kicking the jamb and breaking his big toe. Needless to say, he was easy to find. Scott welcomed his son Brayden into the world in July of 2010. Brayden was his pride and joy, and Scott doted on him. Scott married the love of his life, Brittany, in June of 2016, and Brittany later adopted Brayden, and together with Dylan and Jocelyn, they made a home together in Santa Quin. Scott spent most of his professional life working first at Little Giant Ladders and later at Liberty Safe. And in both positions, he was a hard worker, but more importantly, he was an innovator. He regularly came up with ideas to save time and money, and those ideas were often implemented, usually by him, as he would take the idea to his boss. They would say, that sounds good, go do it. And he would. His efforts did not go unnoticed, and he started climbing the ladder at Liberty Safe, eventually reaching the position of an inventory analyst specialist, but only after countless hours of study, classes, and tests. When Scott set a goal, he would move mountains to accomplish it. Mechanically inclined, he also had a small business fixing washers and dryers. Scott was an avid boater, wakeboarder, and water skier, and he loved taking the family out on the lake and trying to dump them off of the inner tube while being towed behind the boat. While you and I might skip rocks at the lake, Scott skipped people. In one case, the result in one case was 9 body skips and 2 broken ribs for Darren. But one day the tables were turned and Darren was at the wheel and Scott was on the tube, and Darren sent Scott skipping right out of his trunks. In addition to boating, Scott loved dirt bikes. He and his brother Chris and Travis would ride for miles all over central Utah. It was a patch of broken ice in the Fairview Canyon that resulted in Scott scoring a broken collarbone. As I gathered stories from the family, it seemed that every single one of them ended with a broken bone or a ride in the ambulance. So I'll spare you the details and provide just this short list of injuries, which may or may not be comprehensive. We covered the broken collarbone, the broken toe. In addition, there were broken ribs for Scott and Darren both, but not at the same time. Broken femur for Heather, broken thumb and wrist for Scott, broken knee for Scott, broken ankle for Chris, a broken arm for Travis, numerous goose eggs for everyone, and a persistent mystery rash, which I won't identify. That has that. Scott was a fun-loving guy and was always up for anything. He loved taking on projects, which meant Chris was taking on a project, like it or not. Scott would return the favor, however, as they spent hours setting up Chris's workshop together. Whether it was making elephant toothpaste from a YouTube video they had seen or launching homemade rockets, Scott was up for it. Not every idea was a good idea, and sometimes cooler heads had to prevail, like when Scott wanted Grandpa to give him the old blue Plymouth for the demolition derby. Grandpa put the kibosh on that one, and probably making my list of broken bones shorter than it would have been. Fun-loving, adventurous Scott will be missed by all who knew him. Braden, you've lost the most important man in your life, and that is unimaginably hard. I am sure you're feeling of confusing mixed of emotions, sadness, fear, and anger, and all of that is okay. I want to remind you that you're surrounded by people who love you, and all of whom are willing to talk and listen to you. You have many aunts and uncles, some of which you have lost a parent, and know the pain that you are feeling. Heather was not much older than you are when she lost her mother. You also have your mother, brother, and sister. Share your feelings with us. We all love you, and we're here to support you. Our family thanks all of you for being here today and providing the love and support that we need. Scott is no longer with us physically, but he lives on in our hearts and in our memories. And so long as we remember him, he isn't truly gone.
honey. Hey, baby. Just give me a call. Love you. Bye.
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold, still rail? A smile from a veil. Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change? Did you exchange one long part in the war, lead role in a cage?
This is your sister tomorrow. I just want you to know how much I love you and I think you're amazing. Tag, you're in, babe.
How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fears. Wish you were here.
Hi, babe. I was just leaving work over here. Give me a call. Love you. Bye. Hi, baby. Love you. Bye.
Thank you. We'll now go ahead and proceed with the program as follows. We'll have an open mic, remembrance from family and friends, with a special invitation from the immediate family, parents, grandparents, and siblings to begin first. And if there's anybody else that would like to share something, we invite you to do so. We'll have a closing musical selection, God Be With You Till I Meet Again, accompanied by Nicole Fulmer and Melanie Bailey, the chorister. At that point, we'll have a benediction by Sue Fulmer, mother-in-law.
Wow. Thank you all for being here. Scott, I have so much I want to say to you, and I have so much I want to see me accomplish in life. I want to see what job I get, and I want to wake up every day wanting to make you proud of the person I'm becoming. There's so much I wish I could be there for, from my wedding to going to the bar with my old man, for my 21st, or even having my first kid. I want you to know A lot of things that remind me of you. From the lucky hats I wear to going to the gas station and getting a 44-ounce Pepsi with crushed ice. To driving past golf courses, remembering how much you love to golf. I love how much of a father figure you were to me. You were there for me, for my first girlfriend, my first school dance, teaching me how to drive, and giving me the best work ethic in the world. You always used to tell me, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time. I will always appreciate how you were always willing to talk to me about hard times. I didn't get to tell you this enough, but I love you, Dad. I have so many good memories with you. All the trips to the gas station, going to the property, shooting guns, riding four-wheelers. I've been driving a truck of lately, and it's reminded me a lot of you, especially every time Florida Georgia Line plays, or even getting pulled over for all the riding from the viewing. I've been to the house a couple times, and every time I open the door, I can hear you laugh, and I see you smiling on the couch, watching The Big Bang Theory, or whatever. I know you were going through a lot of pain, but at least I know you're in a better place now. I hope heaven cherishes every second with you. I have so much I want to say to you. I know you'll be by my side in spirit, but that doesn't change the fact that I'll have to come talk to you in the cemetery when I feel lost in life. I have so many regrets with you. I wish we could have done some more father and son things. I want you to know I will always cherish every memory I have with you. I know you loved all of us so much. I want to thank you for only being a great dad, but being a loving husband to my mom. You were always there for her. You were her best friend. I'm so lost in life without you. As of recently, my car broke down and I didn't know who to call. You would always know how to fix it. But I know things will get better over time. I will always love you, and I miss you, Dad.
Just had to say slug bug, Scott, because I did see one coming on the way down here. When I met Scott, he had just gotten back on track in life. Chris and Scott went and got the boat down from the property, and Scott went and had it serviced, the motor and everything. And he was like, we got to get this boat out to the lake as soon as possible. So I remember right when we got it back, that next morning, we were headed straight down to the lake. And Chris backed the boat in. And at that point, Scott and I had gotten into the boat to, as Chris launched us into the dock, that we would, go and pick Chris up. So Chris, at the boat launches us out, and we are just, going backwards. And it's been a long time, I'm assuming, since his boat had ran, because kind of took a second to start. And it was cold water still, because we had to get out to the lake that morning super early. So I look down, and we are taking on a ton of water. And I'm like, Scott, we're taking on water. And of course, there's probably like 20 people there watching this whole thing go down. And he's like, oh, crap. And he's like, hurry, and starts like turning, cranking the engine of the boat. And he yells, Chris, hurry and back the boat in. I'm like, Scott, what's going on? He's like, I forgot to put the plug in. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so like he hurry and turns the key, it revs up, and he puts it in, to go forward. But it kind of had like a sticky spot to it on the boat. Like it had to, like when you put it forward, like you have to pull this button. Anyways, it got stuck, and we're flying okay, right towards Chris in the boat trailer. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I sit down and I'm getting ready to like crash. And Scott's like, I got it. And he like hurry and pulls it back. And we go like, flying, went up on the boat and we landed right on the ramp, like right on the trailer perfectly. And it just stopped. And I was like, how did that happen? And he's like, I got this. And everybody's just laughing, like, because they're waiting to put their boats in. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, at least we gave him a show. And so he pulls out, and then, of course, all the water was able to drain, and we put the plug in and went back out. And he really did love his family a lot. Family was everything to him. And he always did lots of service acts for people. I remember when Scott and Brittany were in Springville, it was Christmas time, and at the gas station, he had noticed that this single mother, was working all these hours at the gas station, and just really hit him. And he ended up, I don't know how much money, it was like $2,000 around. Oh, it wasn't. It was a lot of money. He had gotten together, everybody kind of like pitched in, and he gotten the whole family together in on this. And he went in there and just gave it to her, said, hey, this is for you, and just walked away. And that was Scott. He was there for me when my father passed, and was even there for my family. Even like at our washer went out and called Scott, and he's there fixing my mom's washer, just getting it all ready. And it took him hours to do it. My mom goes, it's like, how much do I owe you, Scott? And he's like, not a thing. I would never take anything from you. And that was just the kind of guy he was. But I know he loved you, Brittany. He always had flowers sitting on the table for Brittany. And he was Brittany's biggest fan for her singing. He always was like, wanted her to venture out and sing. And I was one day over at their house trying to put my son to sleep, and I was just humming him a song, and he goes, oh, that's Over the Rainbow. And I was like, yeah, you know that song? And he's like, yeah, Brittany sings it to me every night, rubs my head and sings me that song. And I was like a little kid, and he's like, yep, that's what I like. And I look at Brittany, and Brittany's like, yeah, he falls asleep, like with me rubbing his head, singing him songs. And that was what he loved the most. He loved Braden. He loves you so much, Braden. I remember one time we went golfing, and he still to this day, he never let it down. He let Braden get in the golf cart with me, and let's just say I wasn't used to driving a golf cart, so we accelerated a little fast, and Braden goes like flying. I tried to grab him, and I hurried and stopped it, and he fell out and hit his head right on the sidewalk. And I felt so bad. And he had this great big old goose egg. And he still to this, he'd always be like, yeah, remember when you dropped my son out of the golf cart? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. He never let that one down. But most of all, I'm going to miss is he was the only one that called me Hars. Every time I'd see him, he'd go, hey, Hars. And I'm going to miss that from him. I was lucky enough to get to know Scott, and he had a beautiful soul. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just wanted to get up and say a few words. For Scott. I know, Jocelyn, that you couldn't come up here and talk, but that song that you played in, and she wanted to make sure that she used the guitar that Scott bought for her for Christmas. And I remember the day that we went shopping for it. We went down to Booth Brothers and we were looking at the guitars, and he says, "Oh, it's this one." I said, "Well, that one's kind of expensive." And he's like, "Nope, this is it." And he went and took it to the checkout, and then he was going and gathering all the accessories that she would need to go with it. So it was really important to him that you got that and were able to start your passion for music with that. And these past few months have been really hard. He's been really sick. And seeing him yesterday and today just gave me so much comfort because he just looks so peaceful and like he's not in pain. And it's going to be so hard without you. But I want all three of you kids to know how much he loved you, how much he cares about you, and that he's not going to leave you just because he's not here on Earth. And lastly, I'd just like to thank everybody for your outpouring of love. I just feel like I've been surrounded by love and support, and it means so much to me. And babe, I'm just gonna miss you. And I just love you.
Whew. There's not much more I can say about Scott that hasn't already been said, but I like to think he and I got along pretty well together. Remember, there's one time he was joking about going on a man date, and boy, did I make him follow through. We went to Olive Garden, and he wouldn't let me pay for anything. And it was, I'm pretty sure that was the time he was thinking about asking Brittany to marry him. And he basically was just talking to me about it and how he wanted to make it special and how he wanted to do it. And she's still mad because I never got the video to her of the engagement. But just his heart was in service. I remember my mom had this crazy idea to put a kitchen in her basement. And she decided that instead of having a countertop on the island, she wanted to take an old door and turn it into a kitchen counter. And we took that door, and Travis helped us. Man, did we go through some tools trying to get that counter there. We put lacquer on it, and we put it on. Oh man, that thing is never coming off of that counter between the liquid nails and the screws and the nails. And we were putting the, what's that called? The lacquer on it. We didn't level it. So we've got all this lacquer literally just falling off onto the floor. So the adage was right that we may not have done it right, but we got it done eventually. But that's the type of guy Scott was. He may not have done it right the first time, But he got it done eventually. Scott, thank you for taking care of my sister. All the kids. I was 12 when my dad passed away. So I know I've already said this to Brayden, but I understand how that feels. And if you guys ever need anything, give me a call. I'll try to help you fix your car, Dale. But Scott, just thank you for being you.
He's not quite ready. One of my favorite memories, and it kind of was addressed in this sketch, but I had been cutting his hair for, I don't even know, a year, maybe a little longer. And I just remember him always coming in, and I don't know if he forgot my name or I know, or that was just his thing, but he would smack the counter and he'd be like, "Where's my girl?" I'd turn around and I'm like, "Hi?" And he's like, "There she is." So I'd cut his hair, and I remember when he brought Cole in, and he kept saying, "You got to go on a date with my friend." And I said, "Scott, I don't date clients. You just got to do it," he says. And I said, "No, I'm not doing it." So then I cut their hair, everything like that, and I was walking out, and they didn't know I was behind them at the time. And he's like, "Dude, you just got to go in there, get her number." Well, Cole's too chicken. He'll tell you that. But Scott came over and he said, "Can I have your number from my friend?" And I said, "Sure." So I gave him my number on an air freshener package. Still to this day, Cole has it. I can't thank Scott enough for that, because I wouldn't have a husband or 3 beautiful kids because of him. So he was an amazing guy. Great to my kids. Loved them. You okay? This one's having a hard time with it. He wants you guys to know Scott was his best friend. He loved him with all of his heart. And he's going to miss him.
I wanted to say something. He was a special person to all of us. He all loved us and he all cared about us. He did every single thing we wanted him. If we needed him to do something, he'd be there for us all.
There's a poem that Chris and Harley wanted me to play for Scott.
Friend, you don't need money, just the disposition, sonny. Just the wish to help another, get along some way or other. Just a kindly hand extended out to one who's unbefriended. Just the will to give or lend. This will make you someone's friend. Be a friend. You don't need glory. Friendship is a simple story. Pass by trifling errors blindly. Gaze on honest effort kindly. Cheer the youth who's bravely trying. Pity him who's sadly sighing. Just a little labor spend on the duties of a friend. Be a friend. The pay is bigger, though not written by a figure, than is earned by people clever in what's merely self-endeavor. You'll have friends instead of neighbors for the profits of your labors. You'll be richer in the end than a prince if you're a friend.
Well, that was Scott in a nutshell. He was a friend.
I figured I had to be up here anyway, so. I remember when you called me when you'd first met him. I still remember I was sitting in Las Vegas in my bedroom, and Brittany had called me, and she was all nervous because she didn't know if she should go out with him or because it was going to be his birthday or Valentine's Day or something, and she didn't want him to read too much into that. We had like a whole hour conversation about it. But I saw her go from just struggle to happy. And I'll always appreciate Scott for that. Not to say he had no faults, because everyone has them. And he struggled with things just like everyone struggles with things. But underneath that, he had a heart of gold. My husband also has Crohn's. I don't know how he managed that. His case isn't quite as severe as Scott's, but he really, I don't know. They had some morbid conversations, but he appreciated being able to kind of just talk with him and, compare symptoms and joke about how hard it was sometimes. And like this whole thing has just kind of brought up a lot for me because it's been too close. They could very easily be me. And I wish in some ways I didn't live clear out in Oklahoma so we could have spent more time. But like he said, he was a friend to everyone. And my son Liam, he just loved his Uncle Scott. He wanted to come visit him again. He was so mad when he couldn't come with Jeremy and David last month. And I will never forget when Scott just jumped in the river. And we're like, okay, I guess we're doing this. We all figured out something, and we ended up playing in the river and getting the seats all wet. And he was just so kind to Liam. Liam's like the troublemaker in our family, and he's always getting attention for all the wrong things. And he just loved him. And we were down for Christmas when we were staying with you guys, and he found it had just been his birthday, and at the time he really loved Black Panther. And so I'm like, get him a shirt or something. No, oh no. He got like the full like Black Panther mask and like the claws. And Liam was so excited. Yes. That was him. He was able to express how he felt about people, whether he knew you or not, And the world's just a little dimmer for him not being able to do it physically, but I truly believe that he's going to be able to help from the other side too. And we love you. For the last few days, Brittany gave me the honor of writing about Scott's life. She helped me with the obituary and asked me if I would write his life sketch. And I've spent the last few days writing about Scott. But I didn't get to talk about how I feel about Scott so much. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to share a few things. And I wanted to thank all of you who contributed memories and information about Scott so that I was able to do that for him and for Brittany and the kids. And for all of you, I Scott came into my life. I've known him for about 10 years now. And through doing that and reading through all the things, I feel like I've gotten to know Scott better. And I'm really grateful for that. Scott always called me Miss Sue. He'd call me Miss Sue. And I don't know, the first time we met, Brittany was over in Springville, and Scott was over there, and I walked in, and I don't know why. I don't understand why, but he felt intimidated by me. I don't know, maybe because I was Brittany's mom. Scott's not someone who's intimidated, but it took him a little while. And my experience with Scott is very different than a lot of you's. He was really quiet and reserved and hardly said a word until I got to know him a little better. And then it was like a switch got turned and he was all over the place, filling the space. And I had a dream to create a book nook in Airbnb. And I really wanted to put this book in a bookcase in a door. There was like a secret passage that you could open. And Scott and Chris designed and created and made my book nook. And that's one of my favorite things. He was so excited to do that for me. And Dylan, yeah, he was the muscle. And Brittany and Scott lived with me for a while to be able to save up to buy their house. And so I got to have him live in my house with me. And Scott was always so good. My sons are great. My kids are all great. Not mechanically inclined so much. Music, if you want music, you heard what they can do. But Scott, and Cameron, he's there. You are. But Scott would just come and do things. He would just come and fix things for me. And I appreciate that. And in the last 6 months, Scott was never one to share a lot of his feelings. He held everything deep inside. But in the last 6 months, as I spent time with him, with Brittany and their family,
Scott opened up to me more than he ever has. And he used to give me just kind of this sidearm hug. But one day he was having a really, really hard day. And he came and he just hugged the stuffing out of me and sobbed in my arms and told me how much he loves Brittany. And said, I want to be better. I want to be better for Brittany. And he truly loved you, Brittany, more than anything. And I'm glad that he finally got to meet your dad. That got to meet Kelly. I'm sure Kelly and Lois have been friends for a long time now. And I really think that Kelly and Scott will be watching over you and the kids.
I don't do public speaking at all. You know, I got over 30 years of friendship and brotherhood with him. There's not one day that will go by without truly missing him. He was so much more than a friend, so much more than a brother. Brittany, I can honestly tell you, he loved you with everything. I know that for a fact. Scott and I had so many talks over 30 years, and I can tell you he has never talked about somebody like he talks about you. He loved you dearly. He loved Dylan, Jocelyn, Braden. He just meshed with you guys really well. You know, I remember, so after I moved back from Phoenix, and Scott was like, dude, come work over here with me until you go back to your other job. I was like, all right, I don't want to sit at home. So I started working over at Little Giant with Brittany and Scott. And I'd known Brittany from high school for a brief moment beforehand, but we, never really like ran in the same circles, kind of the same circles, but different people in the same circles. And I remember I just kept watching Scott. We were over on this side of the plant, and I just kept watching him, and he just kept looking over at her, And I'm like, finally, about a week in, I said, Scott, you're either going to ask her out or I'm going to. Just to snub him, And I said, you have till lunch today to ask her out or I'm going to, and you're going to miss out on potentially a great woman, And Scott and I did the same thing with my wife. I wouldn't go up and talk to her. I don't know what it is. I can talk to you about somebody else a million. I'll talk you up all, till the moon. But I can't do it for myself. And I just told him, I said, you have till lunch is over to ask her out. And if you don't, I said, I'm going to. And we had come back in from lunch and everything. And we were sitting there watching, and I'm watching him swedge. And I says, dude, you have 3 minutes. And he's like, I can't. He's like, what if she says no? I said, she says no, she says no. I said, what's it going to hurt? And finally I'm like, 2 minutes. And he's like, dude, don't do that. And I'm like, 1 minute. I said, I know you, and you're about 35 seconds from going to the bathroom. So you have 15 seconds to get over there and talk to her, or I'm going to. And I'll have it done before you get out of the bathroom. And he's like, fine, I'm going. And then you just see him kind of, I don't know, being all bashful and stuff. And then when they went over and talked for a few minutes and then he came back over almost skipping and, and he's like, that wasn't hard. I'm like, well, what'd she say? Well, she said she'd think about it.
And then she called me.
I says, okay, well, that's not a no. I said, go for it, bud, and it literally, their relationship is 2 weeks older than my wife and myself. And it just was something that was meant to be. I just think about, I mean, I could be up here for hours and hours and hours talking about Scott and everything that we've been through. And we had a lot of ups, but we had a lot of downs. It took us a long time to grow up. We definitely didn't make the best life decisions for a long time, but there was always that he was one phone call away, and he knew I was one phone call away. I mean, the boating story that Harley talked about, holy cow, that we had the same thing happen to us because he just could not wait. And I'm like, Scott, are we sure we got everything? Yep. Start backing in. He's like, pull back out here. It's sinking. I'm like, I thought you said we had everything. Well, just one thing was not done. I'm like, one thing can shut down the whole day, man. I'm like, what if you didn't fill it with gas? What are we going to do? Float? And he's like, well, somebody would eventually get us. I'm like, no, Scott, that is not my idea of a fun day. Not even a little bit. And, I look back at all the stories. I mean, we went to sand dunes, camping. Lincoln spent his first Easter up at the property with Brittany and Scott. And I remember I still have a chip in my tailgate from Braden's BB gun. He does not claim it. It was him, for sure. But, I really could go on for hours about Scott. And I think a lot of the things that were said here today has pretty much summed it up. But he truly had a heart of gold. And I don't know if anyone was more shocked at what happened than I was. I just dropped to my knees and was speechless. I mean, my best friend in the entire world is gone. He will always be in my heart. He will always be in my heart. And my family and my kids, they love their Uncle Scott. Lincoln especially. Lincoln and Scott had a really unique bond. He was the only one that could get Lincoln out and just start dancing with him. I mean, he would just start doing these funky moves, and Lincoln was just right there, just swinging away with him. And he just loved links. That's what he called him, was his links. And he was a very, very special man. And I will forever be grateful and indebted for you and your friendship, Scott. I love you, brother, no matter what.
Is that everyone? I appreciate you all sharing your memories and thoughts and stories of Scott. And on behalf of the family, thank you all for being here and your love and support. We'll go ahead and have a closing musical selection. God be with you, till we meet again, and the benediction given by Sue Fulmer.
God be with you till we meet again. till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again. God be with you till we meet again. Keep love standing floating for you. Sight as threatening way before you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet. Till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to have had this opportunity to gather together and celebrate Scott's life. We're grateful for the knowledge that Scott will be with us. This is not the end, and that we will meet him again someday. We pray that will please wrap a blanket of comfort around Scott's family, that they can be buoyed up as they begin to create this new normal, and that they can remember Scott with fondness. We're grateful for the atonement of Jesus Christ and for what it brings to each one of us. Bless us that we can be safe as we go through the rest of this day. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. And we'll have the interment at the Spanish Fork City Cemetery for those that will be going. And we're appreciative of the pallbearers today. Braden Frantz, Christopher Case, Christopher Frantz, Cole Stagel, Dallin Fawcett, Dylan Fulmer, Travis Frantz, and Weston Case. Our honorary pallbearers are Cameron Fulmer, Darren Mayer, Jason Fulmer, Joseph Mayer, Lincoln Stagel, Michael Frantz, and Richard Mayer. Would ask those who have been asked to be pallbearers just to step out to the foyer here. We'll use your assistance. And if we can have the congregation please arise.